The key to multiplying churches is to multiply disciples. And the best disciple maker ever, of course, is our Lord Jesus Christ. Here are 5 simple things to remember about how Jesus developed his disciples. It's a pattern that we want to continue to reproduce today. First, he met them where they were. Think about how he met Peter and Andrew, James and John. He met them on the water where they were fishing, even borrowed Peter's boat so he could preach from it. He met them where they were. He gave them an invitation, follow me, and he also spoke into their life potential, and I will make you fishers of men. When we disciple people, we want to meet them where they are, not where we're trying to expect them to come to us first. Then he modeled for them. He showed them how. Watch me. He did on-the-job training, and most of it was just allowing them to be with him. When we do ministry in any way, if we take people with them and say there's nothing more that I want you to do except for just watch, that's doing what Jesus did. He's modeling what he does so others can see and ultimately learn themselves. Then they did mutual ministry with him. Do it with me, he said. So think about the feeding of the 5,000 as an example. Jesus took the 2 loaves and 5 fishes. He told the disciples, now boys, I want you to get these hungry people into groups of 50 and 100 all the way down the grassy hillside to the shoreline there. And then when Jesus multiplied those loaves and the fishes, his disciples were the ones who fed the people. And so they got to be part of a miracle. And when we get to be a part of a miracle in mutual ministry with Jesus, that just gives us a supernatural hunger for more. Then he mentored and coached them. Remember, he sent them out 2 by 2. He said, I want you to go and preach the good news that the kingdom of heaven is near, and to heal the sick and to cast out demons. And they did. But then when they got back, he debriefed with them. How did it go? He mentored them by pouring into them the wisdom and advice that they needed, and he also coached them by drawing out the things they needed to discover and take responsibility for by asking great questions. Jesus mentored and coached his disciples. And finally, he multiplied through them. As the Father has sent me, so I am sending you. All authority has been given under heaven to me, and so go, make disciples, do as I've done, and do it to the ends of the earth. And so as we seek to multiply disciples today, it's going to be the same wonderful pattern that Jesus gave us with his first band of disciples. Now, the reality is that when we lead people, there's going to be a whole bunch of different kinds of people. And understanding these different kinds of people is going to be very important in terms of how we work with them and how much time we spend with them. Let's look at them. I often have a saying that the faces and places may change, but the cast of characters remains the same. So you may have some faces and names come to your mind, just as I do when I list these 5 kinds of people. First are what we call the moochers. Now I know that's not a very nice word, and sometimes these people are called extra grace required or very draining people, VDP, which I appreciate one of my favorite authors, Gordon MacDonald, for giving me this description. And the reality is these are people with lots of hurts and lots of needs, and they will take all your time if you let them. Now, most of us have been trained to be good shepherds, to care for hurting people. We like to be needed, and yet the reality is that they will take so much time, we have very little left over for some of these other important kinds of people. So what do? Well, you give them opportunity to care for each other, and in that caring, they will grow into wholeness. That's where the wonderful ministry of Celebrate Recovery, different kinds of small groups, 12-step type ministry, allow people with these very important needs to get the care they need, but also to learn how to care for people beyond themselves. The second kind of people are what I would call members. MacDonald calls them VNP, very nice people. And they're the people who will shake your hand and say, nice sermon, Pastor. They'll show up on a somewhat regular basis. They'll give some, but other than that, they're really not very involved. And they're the kind of people that have great potential to help in kingdom ministry. So what do? Well, you help them find the key to their heart, an area of passion, and then you equip them so they can get involved and fit and flourish. And as they fit and flourish, they bear fruit, they experience God's power and joy and fruitfulness. It will become the stimulus to them wanting to be even more involved. Now, the reality is that most churches only have a few places, mostly in-church ministry programs, where people can get involved. And reality is that may not be exciting or interesting to a lot of people, especially the VNPs. So allow them room to find that key to their heart, the area of passion, and then encourage them and equip them so they can get involved and fit and flourish. The third group is what we call ministers. McDonald's calls them very trainable people, very teachable people. These are people who have a good heart. They want to serve. They often serve well in specific ways, such as they will teach a Sunday school class. They will be a great part playing an instrument or being a vocalist on a worship team. They will be the kind of people you appreciate in hospitality ministry. They might be able to lead a small group. But what they're unable to do is to reproduce themselves. So they may teach a Sunday school class, but they can't build a Sunday school program or raise up a team of great teachers or small group leaders or lead worship teams and build and multiply worship teams. Still, you want to make sure to greatly appreciate your ministers and give them a chance to grow. Give them a chance to see what other possibility and potential they might have. Because sometimes there are people that are on the cusp of becoming the next group that we're talking about. And if we give them opportunity to grow, they might become who we're really most looking for, which is multipliers. The very important, very inspiring people, as McDonald would say. These people are rare. But what they can do is identify, recruit, equip, and multiply leaders and teams. They can spot other leaders. They know how to bring people together and help them find their place and to do very good work in their realm. Multipliers are the kind of people that you pray for, and once you get them, you've got to give them room to lead. You've got to give them permission to experiment and be creative. You've got to trust them to be a leader and to build strong teams in their area of expertise, their area of passion. If you can do that for multipliers, they're going to be the kind of people other multipliers will want to join too. Well, the fifth group is one not often talked about. And these are what I call missionaries. And I made up the term VGP for very generous people. These are the people that God will send you to help you short term. They may not stay long term, but they will come and help with a specific need. They will give. They are short-term missionaries that are of great benefit to a ministry, especially one that's starting. And you need to be sending missionaries. We need to send people to help other ministries with a kingdom generosity mindset. What I have found with working with hundreds of church planters and other kinds of leaders is if you don't learn to be generous outside yourself with your time, with your resources, with your willingness to do something that may not benefit you directly but is going to be good for the kingdom, if you don't learn how to be generous from the very beginning, you're going to have a hard time being generous later on, because there'll always be a need, your own kind of need, that will be more important than the needs of others. So learn to be a generous leader. So as we go through our ministry, you may add to this list of people that I've identified, but I call these the 5 kinds of people that you'll tend to work with. And if you will work with them, especially the multipliers, the way Jesus worked with his disciples, then there's great potential for multiplying more disciples, more leaders, more ministries, and more churches. And that's the goal we have, to see God's work flourish and be multiplied to the ends of the earth.